am 30 years old and I've never played an MMO. I guess they always just look so foreign to me. Like the camera's so zoomed out. There's 55 players on screen at once. There's rows and rows of ability icons being spammed at Mark 10 while sparks fly from the keyboard setting fire to the desk. I just didn't get it. I think that's why I gravitated to first-person shooters. It's so immediately obvious what's going on at all times. Gun point, make shoot. My brain craves simplicity, probably because I'm so intellectual. So why did I play an MMO for the first time in my entire life? Obviously because Taurus Land hit me up and they were like, can we pay you to try our game? And I was like, money is so useful and so expensive. I will definitely try your game. And the longer I played this MMO, the more I noticed certain ingredients, certain elements that have made their way into what I thought was originally the Destiny playbook, but what I've now realized was more likely the MMO playbook. And I know what you're thinking. You've played 9,998 hours of that one MMO back in the day, and all of this is obvious to you that Destiny took certain things, but I'm a newbie, so don't bother with the YouTube comment. So eventually I leveled enough and worked up the courage to hop into a Taurus Land dungeon, which just like Destiny is kind of one tier below a raid, and Taurus Land has raids as well. But unlike Destiny, it actually has matchmaking, which is huge for a lone wolf like myself. The dungeon is a 5-person activity and the raid is a 10-person activity. The more difficult thing having a fire team size twice as large as the second hardest thing. What an interesting ratio. They're doing a speedrun event until July 31st called the Taurus Land Legendary Dungeon Champion. Basically raffling off a bunch of prizes for doing certain quests in game. And there's a leaderboard for who can get the fastest dungeon time. I would love to see Destiny have like a month-long speedrun competition for a specific dungeon. Let's say who can solo flawless Warlord's Ruin the fastest. You get an emblem that's just a bunch of anime speed lines and like 10 grand. Oh, the speedruns would go crazy. Like I know the speedruns go crazy already, but they would go so effing giga crazy if there was a specific cash prize for a month. So let me tell you a little about my Taurus Land journey. To start off, you pick from 9 classes, some of which include the Catholic girl down the road who's extremely active, the college athlete superstar who falls off after a shoulder injury and ends up as a car salesman, which is fine, the guy who bangs his sister on Game of Thrones, the super black hunter who mains a glaive in PvE and swears it's pretty good, and the girl who posts exclusively sexy cosplay on Twitter but is an accountant during the day. Every class is some combination of tank, damage, healer, melee, and range. Naturally, I went with the piping hot mage. I have a weakness for red, although later I switched to a phantom necro, but I started on a mage. My first problem was trying to assign appropriate keybinds to all my abilities. You guys know I run an ultra lightweight, only takes up 2 to 3 inches on my desk mini keyboard. The default binds were just the number keys 1 to 7 for all the abilities, and I can't do that. So I had a small panic attack while I came up with some comfy alternative. Compared to Destiny, where you're constantly aiming with the mouse trying to hit headshots, in this MMO, you just click an enemy to target them and it stays locked, so there's not really a Kovacs aim requirement. The skill of the moment-to-moment gameplay is all about managing ability cooldowns. The mage starts off with frost-based attacks, and later you unlock access to a suite of fire-based attacks instead. And you know I immediately joined the Fire Nation as soon as I could. I will capture the avatar and restore my honor. In the beginning, I didn't really pay attention to each specific ability and learn the exact order of which cooldowns for perfect DPS. I just kind of vibed it. Short cooldown stuff, probably a weaker and needs to be spammed. Longer cooldown, probably big boy attack, long cooldown. And we have grenade and melee and Destiny, short cooldown, and supers, long cooldown. In my 10 years of playing, I've noticed that much at least. There is a story, but you guys know I'm not the story guy. Why talk when shoot is option? I like bullet no talk. Consult your local Taurus Land Bife equivalent. I'm sure there's someone. The cutscenes were kind of sick though. Like it's a very simplified Overwatch aesthetic, or like a minimalist Pixar like visual motif. I know this is a classic MMO art style, but it's not something I've really experienced so far in my gaming career, and I didn't mind it. I've been playing a bunch of Elden Ring like right before this, so when you make that switch, it's like, oh, everything is clean and cheerful all of a sudden. Why am I feeling optimistic about the future? You know what I mean? So at the end of the tutorial, let's just say, stop me if you've heard this story before. You wake up with amnesia to the voice of a beautiful elf who tells you that you're special. You grab a stone tablet with amazing power, then you step out to the edge of a cliff overlooking a stunning landscape. There's Twin Peak Mountains on the horizon. The camera does a cinematic sweep. The music swells. Game logo in corner. And there's an evil entity floating in the distance. sense? That was a trick question because no game has ever done a setup even remotely like this. I bet you feel stupid and dumb. Blah, blah, blah. When is this guy gonna stop talking Japanese and get to the good stuff? Okay, let's fast forward a bunch of leveling hours and go straight to the big boy activity. It's called the Camp Car Lion Dungeon. And by this point, I've switched class and I'm now on a Phantom Necro, which is still a ranged damage character, but the build is slightly more complex to execute. I really wanted to know what the hell was going on with my chick, so I was unironically watching build guides, mistakes to avoid in Taurus Land, how to be top DPS, etc. And I have no shame about that. So right as we fire up the dungeon, naturally, I'm in my menu. Not important. One thing you'll notice right away is the most amazing effing feature I've ever seen in a video game, which is a real-time DPS effing progress meter. So make fun of your friends in real time. I mean, is there anything more engaging than this? I was unbelievably dialed the F in at this point when I knew that this was a feature. We'll come back to that. The like watery blue circles, that's me doing my Z move right off the rip. That's what gets my, oh my God, look how high my effing DPS is right now though, dude. So I do good like crowd control. I do good minion work. I'm a known minion handler because that big spinny boy move encircles like a whole area. It's damaging everyone at the same time. Therefore, my DPS effing skyrockets. And that made me so effing rock hard. This was one of the main reasons I started looking up guides because it's so addicting. Yes, okay, in Destiny, when we wipe or when we kill a boss, you get like the, by the way, here was the top damage after the fact. Let me tell you, we need real-time DPS meters. It will change the game in a good way. So this is our first kind of main boss, number one of this dungeon, Boom Pike. So my build kind of revolves around essentially soul dollars, the soul charges, I call them soul dollars, just above the potions on the UI. So I basically rip soul dollars and then I can do stuff with the soul dollars. So the first thing I usually try and do is summon that phantom. Just kidding. I got distracted because this is the first mechanic that came up. They were like, it's mechanic time and there's a cart coming. So you should hit a switch or something with that bomb cart. So I tried to, but then I don't know what happened. I don't think I'm quite understanding that mechanic, and no one else on my team went to interact with those effing levers. So all good, wrong lever, Yzma. As you can see, the levers obviously move the tracks. Okay, here comes another bomb cart. But what were we supposed to do with the bomb cart here? Sorry, bomb truck. More of a cart, but all good. Yes, I have interact bound to 9. It's a whole thing. So the bomb cart, it just goes off the edge and it doesn't seem to affect us. So don't know what's happening there. Either way, back to my build. I do the circle boy initially because that's good DPS over time. Then I summon my phantom. Usually when I have enough, there we go. We summon the phantom when we have enough soul dollars. Then I do my like main primary attack, which is my Q. That's my soul arrow. And then just kind of balancing. I have some other stuff that I'm doing. The E, my E move is, that's how I get the down payment of soul charges, of my soul dollars. Then I can spend those on either the phantom or the spinny boy, or my R move is I basically get like a bunch of tokens to spend on really powerful soul arrow attacks. Either way, the boss is dead. Never look at me or my son ever again. We get some classic green to blue gear. We instantly upgrade, emerging, I should say, from a giga chest. Where have we seen that before? I can't think of a single example. We get in a cart, we get anime zoom arrows. I'm doing fentanyl. We love this. And then they're like, actually, while you're transitioning, would you like to do a minor mechanic? And I was flashing back to the Scourge of the Past Sparrow section, big time here. Kind of a basic mechanic, but it's better than just holding W and just running to the next thing. I got an achievement for doing that, obviously. I popped the F off, not a big deal. Right away, I see a group of minions. You know I'm coming in with my Z spinny boy attack. There it is. Thank you so much. Then I summon my phantom. Okay, so I've also used my R move here. So you can see I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 the kind of like blue charges floating around me right now. Oh yeah, this is where I've had no internet problems for literally 9 months. Not a single disconnect on any of my computers. And then wouldn't you know, in this 10 to 15 minute activity for a sponsored video, the internet completely cut out for about 2 minutes there. So I reconnect as they've started kind of the first quarter of this boss's health. So he's got kind of a lane kind of denial attack there that you've got to get out of. But also the mechanic at this point is these ammunition carts. And if you don't destroy those carts quick enough, I think maybe he does bullet storm longer. Like he gets to shoot for longer depending on how much ammo he picks up, which is like, oh, that's kind of an interesting mechanic. I'd like to see a Destiny boss that uses a certain weapon for a certain amount of time depending on how much ammo they pick up, and we can try and deny them from using that ammo for their weapon or something. Then the following mechanic, as you saw, was like a don't move right now mechanic or I'll snipe you. My teammates are just not giving an F about the giga lane denial, so I don't know why I bothered getting out of it. This is a normal dungeon, like the difficulty is normal as opposed to elite. That's like kind of the higher tier of difficulty. I'm not topping the DPS charts here. Little embarrassing, not sure what was going on. My game was kind of completely thrown off ever since I got disconnected. Completely my own fault. It's amazing amazing like how engaged you are when there's a real-time scoreboard on like how effective you're being. Okay, so my character just said dodge. It's interesting that in like an MMO, the character, like the game wants you to figure it out instantly, like what the mechanic is. Whereas in Destiny, like in dungeons and raids, the mechanics are kind of hidden. They're kind of like the game doesn't want you to necessarily figure it out right away. Like the game will give you little hints that are like vague in the kill feed to like showing success or failure of a mechanic, but it's not overt. Whereas in this game, my character literally is like, dodge now, avoid that. So I was like, oh, that's kind of a different approach. Huge spinny boy attack. The Water Nation would be proud, although it's kind of soul energy. Oh, look at that damage, 1200 DPS. Oh my God. They've never seen anyone like me. I'm the chosen one. So let's rev the engine up. Spin followed by, look, I should do cash back here. Yes, did my cash back. So now ripped immediately up to 7 soul dollars. Now I start spending those on summoning my spectral and then doing soul arrow over and over. As soon as my spin runs out, I refresh. And then I keep doing soul suck to keep replenishing my charges. Was really hoping that that teammate was going to get crushed by the bridge. Unfortunately, the ragdoll physics, not as vibrant as in Destiny. It's the classic rotation. It's DPS the boss, and then we mix it up with some kind of little effing thing that happens in the middle. So in this case, obviously, it's a bunch of spiky Beyblades yeeting around that you have to dodge. I would love to see some kind of boss where we're just in the middle of an arena and the boss just starts like disc launching exploder shanks at like Mach speed across the ground and you have to dodge them to stay alive. I would love that. How have we not had that? In before we had something exactly like that, and I'm just completely blanking right now. But yeah, now we're back to DPS. This is the classic MMO formula, and I didn't realize how classic this was. We've got people spamming their Discord links in the chat. I saw someone advertising like a laptop selling site, so love to see that. This effing Lex tryhard has knocked me off the top of the DPS charts, so I hate that. Hate everything about that. Just kidding. I'm immediately back on top. Okay, so we do actually have, as the boss goes down, like kind of the top overall damage. I was 24%. The top was 27%, but I also disconnected for literally 2.5 minutes. Therefore, I like to think if I had stayed in, I would have been fine. AKA, we would have been top of the charts and Data would have finally been proud. Once I started to get the hang of my classes build and saw my name at the top of the DPS charts, I was having a blast in this game. The game is literally free. It's not pay to win, according to the vast majority of reviews I watched. If you don't believe me, go and watch the reviews yourself. The monetization is extremely fair according to most people. The movement and aim isn't as intense as Destiny, obviously, but the ability cooldown gameplay loop can be very engaging if you find a class that you gel with. Use my link in the description to download the game. And thank you again to Tarisland for sponsoring this video.